In every economy, there are people who outperform it. Same market, same conditions, same limitations. Yet one group constantly rises, while another feels as if the economy is holding them back. And most people think they know why this happens. They're wrong. I grew up in one of the worst economies in the world. I grew up in Zimbabwe. And because of that, I got to see some things that some people will never see. If you can understand this, you won't just survive a bad economy, you outperform it. So before I go further in this video, you have to break down the keyword in this, an economy. Most people, you have a conception of what an economy is, but you don't have a proper definition in your mind. So how can you transcend something that you don't know what it is? So essentially, an economy is the system in which a group of people sell, buy, or use services and goods. So essentially from this, you can see that each transaction involves a group of people, 1, 2, maybe even 10 people. Transactions can have a chain of people. So the issue with this is most people see this definition or this conception of an economy and recognize that, rightly so, people are involved. The problem with this is people begin to see people as a source. So now when you want to increase your income, when you want to earn more, you think, okay, the average Zimbabwean can afford X, Y, and Z. So I have to price my services at X, Y, and Z. There aren't many people who can afford this in the country that I'm in, so I can't sell it. When we see people as our source, we bind ourselves to what we can see. And when you see people, you're interacting with a finite amount of people. There are probably 20 different people that you come across each day. If you're like me and you spend a lot of your days at home, you probably come across an average of 2 new people a day. So when you see people as your source, because you recognize that in economies it's human beings transacting, selling, and using goods and services, right? And without recognizing, you create a finite source for yourself, because human beings are finite. The only thing that's infinite in this world is God. The second issue that comes from this is once you believe that human beings are your source, you bind to the collective consciousness. Essentially, what the collective consciousness is the average of a group of individuals' beliefs, perceptions, attention, emotionally charged thoughts. It's the 7 pillars that create your consciousness, and I'm going to get into this later in the video. One of the most important things I'm going to say in this video is that your consciousness creates your reality. So now, when you bind yourself to the collective consciousness, when you bind yourself to what other people think about the economy, seeing people as your source, you now bind yourself to the collective reality, because consciousness creates reality. Consciousness precedes reality. So do you now see how that's a problem? Do you now see how that's a problem? When you as an individual, if you're clicking on this, you are either underperforming your economy or you want to overperform your economy, because you know, rightfully so, that you are capable of doing so. So when you attach yourself to this collective consciousness as viewing people as your source, number one, and thinking that the economy hinders how much money you can make, you bind yourself to the collective reality. So now, if you want to be outperforming the collective, the average person, that's essentially what outperforming an economy is. You are outperforming the average person. If you want to be doing that, how can you accept the collective consciousness? How can you accept the collective beliefs? Because the collective beliefs, the collective consciousness are only going to lead you to the collective reality, and that's not what you want. And now you may be skeptical, thinking that it's easy for me to say that consciousness precedes and creates reality, when in truth, many people are confident because they have money. Many people feel abundant because they have money. Many people have this peace because of money, yeah? And you think that if you had it, you would be in the same state too. The issue with that is you think that consciousness comes as a result of what you have in this physical reality, when that isn't the truth. And a simple way to break down all of that is to look at the example of lottery winners. The lottery winners who go from being broke to having millions upon millions of dollars. And yet, most lottery winners lose their money within the first 5 years. I don't know the exact stat, but I know that most lottery winners, 90-something% of them, lose all the money they got. So, based on what you think, that a state of consciousness comes from having things, surely lottery winners would be an example that, okay, because they got an injection of millions of dollars, their consciousness changed and Because of that, their reality was supposed to change as well and to remain the same. But the issue is, when these people win the lotteries, they don't change their state of consciousness. They don't care to adopt new beliefs. And because of that, consciousness will always defy your reality. Consciousness will always overcome what is happening in this physical plane. So, because of that, their consciousness is still the one that they had when they were broke, the one that caused them to be broke. And now they have millions of dollars. But that doesn't change the consciousness they have. So down the line, they make decisions, they make purchases that lead to them having nothing. And because they don't have the right consciousness, they don't have the ability to acquire more and more money to maintain that level. You even see it when it comes to trust fund kids. There are people who are born with all the wealth in the world, but for some reason, their state of consciousness is one of lack. Their state of consciousness is one of, I don't have enough. I need to do everything to keep it. And because they have that state of consciousness of lacking, though they were born in very good conditions with a lot of abundance, they eventually lose everything. It's important that you recognize that your mind creates reality, but it has a lag effect. Everything that you're experiencing now is as a result of the consciousness that you had in the past. Everything that you're going to experience in the future is as a result of the consciousness that you have now. You will never be able to escape your consciousness. You will never be able to have a consciousness of lack and produce a life of abundance. There's no way. So you're never going to be able to have a consciousness of the collective, a consciousness of believing that the economy dictates how well you do, and have results that defy all of that. You know, it's funny, as I've been recording, I've been seeing that my zip is glistening in the sky. I have no idea what's going on, but I guess this is the ice. This is the ice that some people talk about. A few people, they have their diamond necklace. I have my, I don't even know what this is made of, out of titanium, steel, whatever this material is. But anyways, let me not cut from the topic. So the truth of the matter is, in every single economy, wherever you go in the world, there is always a group of people who are overperforming, outperforming that economy. There's always a group of people, the majority, that are just doing as one would expect. And then there will always be a group of people who are underperforming, who are making less than the average. The funny thing is, all three of those people are in the same economy. The same economy has produced people that outperform it, people that abide to its guidelines and its collective beliefs about how much you can make in the economy, what's realistic. And then there are people who just don't make as much. And you may be thinking, oh no, those people don't work. They don't have the right strategies. They don't have the right techniques. They aren't putting themselves out there. But I'll have you know that there are a lot of people in this percentage that underperform an economy that are doing more than you will ever do in your life. They're reading more books, they're implementing more strategies, they're going to more seminars, but for some reason, I'm going to say that for now, for some reason, things just don't work out for them. So the fact that there are three groups in the same economy shows that the economy is not the reason why some people underperform and why some people overperform. The economy is not going to be a reason why you can't sell your services, because whatever you're doing right now, I can guarantee you there's an example of someone in the exact same place, exact same area, who is doing it and doing it far better than you are doing it now. And the harsh truth is, they may be doing less than you are doing now. You may be more qualified by them. You may make better videos. You may service your clients better, and all your testimonials show that, you know what, I provide a good service, but for some reason, you're only making 5,000 a month. But there's someone else in your exact place, in the exact business, doing the exact same things as you, but they make 30,000 a month. And you're always left there thinking, what is wrong with me? Maybe, just maybe, I'm not meant to succeed. Maybe success in this area or success in certain parts of life is meant for certain individuals. And I'm not that individual. And that is one thing I hate, that some things are meant for other people. I don't believe God would put us on this earth and limit us in certain things. Yes, we have strengths. Yes, we have weaknesses. But we can all achieve the same end result. So the same economy has produced three people: overperformance, average, underperformance. So that goes to show that the economy isn't the root cause. And the easiest example I've seen is this. As I've said, I've grown up in Zimbabwe and I've spent 99% of my life in Zimbabwe. And one of the craziest things is my parents, they did everything they could. They worked hard so that I could go to the best school in the country. The funny thing about going to the best school in the country is in one class you have a student that's struggling to pay school fees. You know, sometimes the school, like those teachers, they were ruthless. You wouldn't have paid school fees after the first week, and they would take you out of class. There was this teacher. I'm not gonna say their names for the sake of it, but there were these teachers. Sometimes they would even send prefix. For those of you who don't know who prefix are, they're people in the highest form, and they're essentially like the leaders of the school. So we had head boy, deputy head boy, then prefix. So sometimes they'll send prefix to classes, an 18-year-old, to tell another 18-year-old that, hey, your dad doesn't pay school fees. You're not allowed to learn anymore. Go outside into the quad and wait until something's been sorted out or until your parents pick you up. So, anyways, back to my story. The craziest thing is going to this school. In one class, there would be the son of the owner of the richest or highest performing business in the country. Sitting exactly next to that guy is a son of a father who's struggling to pay school fees. Like 80% of his income goes towards paying his child's school fees. And let me not even comment on the child's lunchbox. It was just, yeah, it was just a very, very eye-opening experience. And this was a normal thing that I experienced from grade 6, not grade 6, from the age I was 6 up until the age I was 18 in Zimbabwe. It's such a wild, wild west country that the richest person can be next door to someone who's struggling to pay their fees. And it's not even that they have lifestyle inflation. So it's not even that, oh, this person is making 30,000 a month and they're just spending their money recklessly. Oh, my dogs. I really hope they don't make noise. Oh, it's my dog. But anyways, it's not an issue of these people are making a lot of money and they are spending it recklessly. They are just not making money. The funny thing is they're working harder than the person next door to them that's making 400K a month, that's making $1 million a month. And people think that those numbers are only reserved for the first world. No, in Zimbabwe, there are people who are making millions of dollars a month. And you always resort to, oh, corruption. Fair enough. But I promise you, there are people in this country who are making millions of dollars a month without any corruption. Whether you believe me or not, I don't care. I honestly don't care. It won't change my life. But through being in classes with these people and being in classes with their sons, I got to visit their houses. I've got to become friends with their children. So naturally, I'll go to their house, I'll spend some time with their parents. And the older we got, the more we'd actually talk to and relate with their parents. And the most interesting thing that I realized through all of that is there's no difference between, let's say, my father, the father who owns in school, someone who works in an accounting firm and they're the COO and they make the highest salary, they're a father who's struggling to pay school fees, and a father who can only afford to send his son to, let's say, a school that costs $90 a term, right? The only difference between all of them is just the way they think. When you look at them, the way they breathe, the way they operate, a lot of times the way they do the work, you can't really tell the difference between them except that they're different people. They sound different, they may have different thoughts, but the only tangible thing that is different about them, apart from the reality that they live in, is your mind. It's their state of consciousness. And remember what I said earlier, consciousness creates and precedes reality. And it hurts me because it's a country where there's just a lot of inequality. The richest people have unimaginable amounts of money. Like, you look at Zimbabwe. Anything that you've heard about Zimbabwe, you probably think that it's a poor country. Like, there's no money here. And fair enough, like, for the majority, it's a very poor country. Majority of people don't have enough to get by day by day. But to say that there's no money in the country is a lie. To say that there are not many people making money is a lie. And it just hurts me because if people accepted that they could change their state of consciousness and their life would change, not immediately, but down the line, things will be better. And under one of my videos, people said that the reasons involved in the place it's in is because the leaders and how they think. But forgive me for thinking that 14, 15 million people, if they change their mind, and of course, not everyone is going to change their mind, so that's even a stupid thing for me to think. But in a hypothetical situation, if 14 to 15 million people change the way they think, do you think what the leaders did would affect the economy? Of course it would, but eventually the collective consciousness of the whole population would overpower the collective consciousness of the politician. So you come to the conclusion, I don't know if you've come to the conclusion, but I'm telling you that the difference between people is a state of consciousness. You even see this in business. The example I brought by earlier, where you are only making 5,000 a month, but there's someone who is doing the exact same things as you. Your strategies may even be better. You may even post more videos. You may even do more outreach, but for some reason, this person is making $30,000 a month. And that person could even be your friend, which would piss you off even more. Because this is my friend. It's not like this is some gifted prodigy. This is my friend, the person I grew up with. And they're making 30,000 a month and I'm making 5. It doesn't make sense. I know it sounds bad to say, but now you start getting jealous. You start feeling envy for your friend. And that's never a nice place to be in. And you will not be in that place if you listen to the rest of this video, of course. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you're a professional athlete or a 5-figure entrepreneur, I help exactly those people unlock mental blocks in their mind so that they can transcend to the next level to earn more revenue, to get better performances without changing anything in their physical reality. If you're interested in that, click the first link in the description. It will take you to a Google form where you can fill in an application, and at the end of that you'll be booking a call for me to see if you qualify to be one of my clients. We've come to the conclusion. I don't know why I keep on saying we've come to the conclusion. I have told you that your consciousness creates your reality, and the only difference between people who outperform and people who underperform, the only difference between the father who owns the biggest business in the country and the father who's struggling to pay school fees, the difference between the CEO of the company and the person who, no matter what they do, they cannot rise up the company. The only difference between all those pairs of people is a state of consciousness. And that's all it will ever be. Because consciousness or frequency, those two terms are interchangeable. Frequency defies rationality. Frequency has a ability to make things that don't make sense make sense. And that's why regularly you see things that don't make sense. You see someone who's doing exactly what you were doing, and yet they earn 6 times more than you. Both things don't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense that you're doing the exact same things as someone who's making $30,000 a month is doing, and you're making $5,000 a month. And it doesn't make sense that the things that someone who's making $5,000 a month is doing are the same things that a $30,000 per month person is doing. It doesn't make sense. Both scenarios don't make sense. And it doesn't make sense how some people are just luckier than other people. And I'm here to tell you, and the message of this channel is that it does make sense, but only when you look at it from a spiritual and mental perspective. Sorry, I need to reduce the volume of this. I need to reduce the volume of that. I'm actually on a FaceTime call with my girlfriend because I sleep on the call with her. So yeah, I didn't want to cut the call because real niggas don't cut the call. But anyways, this has to be one of the gayest things I've done. Like, look at this pose that I'm in now that I'm talking with my girlfriend. Nah, niggas are cooked. We're going this side. But anyways. So, if your state of consciousness precedes and creates your reality, it's simple to deduce that if you change your state of consciousness, you can change your reality. So, for you watching this video, if you can change your state of consciousness to the right state of consciousness, you can start to outperform your economy. And if you're an attentive listener, or if you extrapolate, you realize that this video isn't even about economies. It's about industry standards. It's about collective beliefs. It's about anything that involves anything with your norms. In any situation, you can outperform the norm. In fact, one of my clients, he's a professional rugby player in France. There was a norm that academy players, international academy players, don't often start. So they are signed for the team, but because they're international, it takes a lot more for teams to keep them. So he had this pre existing belief that, oh no, international players don't start, especially ones who have just transferred and people don't know much about them. And I got him to see himself not as an international player first, but as a star player. I changed the state of consciousness to one where he deserved. And lo and behold, from being a French player, he went to starting every single game this season. Every single game. He was the only person with black line, and he was an international player, a black man in France. A black international player in France? Anyways, shout out to Diva. But if you can change your state of consciousness, you can change your reality. And that was shown by my client Adiwa, and it's been shown by many instances in my life. So naturally you're thinking, what is my state of consciousness? Because you're thinking, okay, if I can change this, I can change my reality. But relax, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. In fact, we're getting there right now. I don't know why I'm telling you to relax. I'm actually scared to tell people to relax, because I talk to my girlfriend a lot more than other people, and whenever I tell her to relax, you know what it's like telling a girl to relax? It's like poking a lion. It's like taking a bowl from a dog that hates when people take food away from it. Like one of my dogs, I don't know. I think it's something about the economy that dogs can sense, but these dogs don't share food. They don't take it lightly when anyone comes close to their food, including me. So there was this one time where I just wanted to shift it. He goes, starts growling at me. I'm like, dude, I'll leave you alone. Like, low key, that dog is the owner of this house. But anyways, relax. I need to get used to saying relax, but relax. Anyways, your state of consciousness consists of 7 things. Now, I always forget, so I'm actually going to read it right now. So, the 7 things are your beliefs, emotionally charged thoughts, attention, perception, convictions, reactions, and expectations. And I'm briefly going to go through the list of 7 and detail what you may be thinking compared to what you need to think to be able to outperform and finally go from making $5,000 a month to making $15,000 a month. And it could even be things as if you're already making $20,000 a month, yeah? But you believe that things have to be hard. You believe that things have to be a certain way, that you have to work 14 hours a day. It could be transcending that. Maybe you're not transcending an economy and outperforming an economy. Rather, you're outperforming yourself. Anyways, so on to the first thing, your beliefs. Your beliefs are always going to dictate the life that you have, because you're never going to act out of accordance of your belief. The easiest way and the most crude way to do this is if you believe that you're going to go to hell if you have sex before marriage and you don't want to go to hell with all your might, you are not going to have sex before marriage. Like, you're not. Like, I know people say that, oh, temptation, whatever, but you're not even going to find yourself in that position. You're going to be like Joseph and you're going to run away when the Pharaoh's wife is now opening her legs for you. Yeah? And that was probably the crude example, but the truth is, right, you are not going to act consistently and all the way in a way that goes against your beliefs. So let's say you believe that you can't outperform your economy. You believe that, oh, the most I can make in Zimbabwe is $5,000. Wherever you may be, whether it's Croatia, whether it's Slovenia, I don't know where you are, the UK, the States, your specific industry. If you believe that there's only, or I'm only ever going to be able to make this much, and the economy is a reason why I'm making this much, you're going to be right. Because that's the sadistic thing about human beings. We desire to be right regardless of its effect on us. So the effect of you being right about economy standards, or that you can't break through a certain threshold. And before I go on, let me just say a lot of these things are subconscious. Consciously, you know that, okay, I can make more. You can rationally see how you can make more. But subconsciously, and that's what creates your reality, your subconscious mind subconsciously you believe that, nah, I can't transcend these industry standards. So, because you always want to be right, and you will be right even at the detriment of yourself, if you have beliefs that don't match what you want, you are never going to get to that point. The next thing is emotionally charged thoughts. Emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is programmed by emotion. So, what you need to do is you need to look at the thoughts that bring a high emotional charge. So, for a lot of you, that may be thinking that, oh, I'll never be able to make money in this economy. Things just never work for me. And whenever you think thoughts such as that, oh, this thing has been jingling the whole time. Like, I got ice on my neck. I got ice on my neck. But whenever you think those thoughts, it evokes a negative emotion. It says apathy. You're like, no matter what I do, it's never going to work. No matter how hard I work, I'm never going to make as much money as this person. Yet we do the same things. Maybe some things just don't work for me. So whenever you think that, you are thinking that with an emotion. And since emotion is the language of the subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind creates your reality, that negative emotion that you're feeling creates the propensity for the world to give you more of the things that will make you feel that same emotion. Because the world, think of the world as an ecosystem, right? Each ecosystem wants to maintain the status quo. So if the ecosystem has recognized that John or Cody, let's say your name is Cody, the ecosystem has recognized that Cody is always feeling apathetic because he feels as if anything he does isn't going to work. You're going to encounter more situations where anything you do doesn't work. Anyways, I won't go into depth about these videos. I'm going to make a video about your state of consciousness. These 7 pillars creates the life that you live. Anyways, your attention, what are the things that you pay attention to? It's likely that you don't pay attention to the success stories. You pay attention to all the things that have shown you that you can't make a certain money, all the failures that you've had while trying to outperform the industry standards. You don't pay attention to the people who are doing it. And whenever you do look at them, you look at them from a position of like, how is this person making this much? How is this person doing all of this and I'm not? We are doing the same things. Anyways, next, your perception. So how you perceive the things that are happening to you. Out of all the 7, I'll say your perception is the most important thing because reality isn't one way. Reality isn't good or bad. It just is. See, the exact same thing can happen and people will perceive it in different ways. Even if you think about things as simple as colors, how I see black may not be the same way that you see black, but because we were both looking at the same color, right? This is my watch. That's why I chose black. Because we were looking at the same color, referring to the same thing, black for me may look like orange for you, but we'll never know. But the thing is, I perceive it to be black, and because I perceive it to be black, my actions are aligned in a certain way. So you need to now perceive things differently. And of course, I know I haven't given you the solutions. I'm going to give you them just now. I'm just going down the list. Convictions. So the next thing is convictions. Convictions are essentially things that you know. So when you're convicted of something, it's not a question of, oh, I believe this, you just know. In a religious sense, we see conviction when you are partaking in an activity that you shouldn't be taking and you feel some certain type of way. You know that you're not supposed to be doing this. It's not a thing of like, oh, I believe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. You just know. Conviction. Reactions, how you react to the things that happen to you. Regardless of the state of consciousness that you're in, life is going to throw curveballs. You're going to lose a client. Sales call is not going to go well. You're going to underperform on one day. That's always going to be happen. But how you react to that determines your state of consciousness. Oh my goodness, my dogs. Anyways, expectations. What you expect is what is normal for you. And you'll find that if you are feeling as if you could outperform the economy, or if you're feeling as if you're underperforming, or if you just want to make more money in a better way, if you want to play better than all the players around you, regardless of the league. Let's say you're trying to go from the French league to the English league because you think the English league is better, yeah? Regardless of all of that, I forgot the point I was making. It's also like it's 11:45, so forgive me for this. And I probably shouldn't include this because people are gonna think, oh, this guy, he doesn't know what he's saying, whatever. But anyways, the point is, oh my goodness, this is why you shouldn't record videos at 11:45 or 11:45. But anyways, all these 7 things, they culminate and they create your state of consciousness. And we have said that your state of consciousness is what creates your reality. So if you can change it, you will change your reality. So the very first thing and the most important thing in this video when it comes to changing your state of consciousness and becoming the type of person that can win in every single economy and outperform any environment they're in is detaching from the world's economy, from people, from individuals, and seeing people as your source and attaching to God's economy. Because the truth is, right, God is our source. And the reason why God is our source, to break it down, is you see people. You see John bought my course. Oh, John paid me $1,000. Shakia paid me $3,000 yesterday. So, of course, these things are coming from people. But that is shallow thinking because we are made in the image of God. Each one, or regardless of the religion that you look into, it is expressed in a different way that we are made in the image of God. In each one of us, there is a droplet of God's infinite power in us. And that is the thing, that is the most divine part of us, the image of God that we are made in. So, in each one of us, there exists a droplet of God. And that droplet of God is our core, it's our soul. It's the thing that can't die, the thing that lives on forever, the thing that's been here since the beginning when God made human beings, and it's the thing that's going to be there long after we die. So, at our very essence, we are made in the image of God. Therefore, at our very essence, it is God who is providing. Why do you buy a certain thing? Who knows? Why do you feel the intuition? Why do you feel nudged to do certain things? Who knows? But at the core of it is God. At the core of every human is God. So now, when you see that at the core of every human being is God, and that's what we connect to, the core of every human being, you will realize that it is not a people's economy, but it's God's economy. But so long as you identify with the people's economy and see people as how we are, finite, you will always have finite results. You will always be bound to the industry standards. You will always be bound to the collective beliefs that, oh, for me to make $20,000 a month, I'm going to have to be working 14 hours a day. I'm going to have to hate my clients. They're going to wake me up at random times, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., because they need help. I'm never going to have free time, right? You are always going to be bound to those standards. But the moment you detach from the people's economy and attach to God's economy, you're no longer bound by that. You are now in an infinite world. You are now in supreme abundance. You are now in an environment where anything is possible. You can be in Zimbabwe and get paid $5,000 for your services. I'll have you know, I have a friend who sells trucks for like 100,000. Okay, I don't know if they're 100,000, but I know they're definitely 50,000. And he sells them quite honestly. Well, not quite honestly, but quite frequently. And you'd be surprised, oh, who has money to buy $50,000 trucks frequently? People in God's economy. But anyways, now, how do you enter God's economy? The first thing you need to realize is that you can't sit in 2 chairs at once. So you will never be able to be in the world's economy and to be in God's economy. So the very first thing you need to do to enter God's economy is to stop seeing people as your source and to see God as your source. And that is the truth. God is your source. Because God works through people, we are made in the image of God. So let's say someone who aligns with your work because you are in God's economy and because you are holding the state of consciousness that you are earning the amount that you want to earn, they just felt inclined to buy from you. And it's not as if you're robbing them. It's not as if you coerce them into doing it. In God's economy, purchases serve both the purchaser and the seller. So it's a thing that gives value to both people. You receive money, they receive your services or product or whatever it is that you're selling. So I went through the list of 7 things when you are not in God's economy, and I gave examples. So now going through briefly the 7 facets of your consciousness when you are part of God's economy. If you are part of God's economy, what beliefs will you have? You will believe that money is abundant. You will believe that there are more clients than you will ever be able to serve, because quite frankly they are. There are more people in this world than you will ever be able to serve. Even the biggest companies in the world, let's say Facebook, like not even everyone isn't on Facebook. There are more people than you'll ever be able to serve. The biggest company. Water. Some people don't get water. Like this. That's a crazy thing to say. But even for a water company, there are more people in the world than they are able to serve, because not everyone is going to be able to get their water. The point I'm making is your belief should be there's always more than enough. There's more than enough potential clients. There's more than enough people who can afford and want to buy your services. There are more than enough people who see the value in what you produce and will pay you at the price that you want them to pay you for. We go into your emotionally charged thoughts. So now your emotionally charged thoughts will probably be things that invoke a positive emotion. So you will be excited when you think about the abundance. You will be enthralled when you think about the positivity or the possibility of improving. You will look at the opportunity rather than the lack thereof, of which there's no lack of opportunity, there's no abundance of opportunity. There's only the way you see it. And the way you see it is the only thing that matters. But anyway, attention. You'll stop paying attention to the things that don't matter and pay attention to the things that indicate that you were able to make a certain amount of money. So you'll stop looking at, the economy is in a recession, but recognize that, I'm in God's economy. In God's economy, everything is happening all at once. So even in a recession, someone wants to buy my services. Even in a recession, there are more people than I can serve who are looking for my services. More people than you want to serve, because I don't think you want to serve 10,000 people at once, but there probably are 10,000 people who need your services at any given time, regardless of where you are. So you will pay attention to the things that contribute to your desired reality. To give an example, you're making $5,000 a month now and you want to make $20,000 a month. Your desired reality, the things that will contribute to your desired reality, would be paying attention to the abundance of opportunity, the abundance of potential clients, paying attention to the clients that you already have, because you can only have what you already have. And you already have clients right now. If you're making $5,000 a month, even if you're not making anything, you already have clients. You can be your own client, right? Paying attention to what you have, being grateful for that, and paying attention to all of those things. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And where your energy flows creates your reality. Anyways, your perception. So when you're attached to God's economy, you do not perceive things in the way that the average person perceives them. So let's say in Zimbabwe, there's a recession like every 2 weeks, right? There's a recession like every 2 weeks, quote unquote recession, yeah. Not even quote unquote. Like every 2 weeks, things the prices are going up. People are being paid. Less people are being thrown off of work. That's a reality for most people, right? However, when you attach yourself to God's economy, you no longer see it as, there's no money in the country. But like I said, you realize that in God's economy, everything is happening all at once. So just because it may appear, or not even appear, just because Zimbabwe is in a factual recession does not mean that everyone doesn't have money. There was always going to be someone that needs your services. There's always going to be an abundance of people that can pay the amount that you want. And it's important that you no longer perceive events in a negative light, but you perceive them in a way that leads to your desired reality. Like, for example, one of my clients, he said that we're done. Or he said that I can't afford your services anymore. I'm trying to save money. And I was like, calm. And if I was attached to the people's economy, I would see this like, damn, I've lost a client. Like, no, oh my goodness, where am I going to get another client? But that did happen at first, for like the first 2 minutes. And then I stood back I took a step back and I realized that I wanted to be a part of God's economy. So what I did is I forced myself to view it and perceive the situation from a positive light. So I just said, oh, I'm losing this client. I'm not even losing this client. This client stepping away is making way for another client who's going to pay me more. And this happened like 2 days ago, so I can't really say. But when the new client comes, you're going to hear about it in a video, and I'll make a video about that exact same thing. But yeah, that's how one in God's economy would view it. Because if a person stops, let's say, needing your services, because let's say if you're a good coach, your people aren't always going to need your services. If your business is helping people build personal brands, it's going to get to a point where they don't need your services. So as a coach, you're always going to have new clients eventually, right? Losing a client, quote unquote, losing, it's not losing, it's just making way for a new client. It's making way for the natural order of things, and that is change. So naturally, your clients are going to change over time, but what isn't going to change? You making money. Anyways, we go into conviction, things that you know. So what do you know? You know that you're going to get more clients. Why? Because your source is God, and God is infinite. Now, reactions. How are you going to react? The thing that I just talked about, my client going away, was a perfect example. I could have reacted and be like, oh my goodness, this is the end of the world. How did I react? With calm, peace, and poise. It shows that I'm going to get a new client, a higher paying client, and they will align more with my goals, of which this client aligned with me perfectly, but it's clear that there's someone who aligns with me even more. Now, expectations. What do you expect to happen? Your expectations are what you find normal, and you don't need to experience certain things to expect them. You can just decide that I expect to make more clients. So, I've given you examples of the state of consciousness, the beliefs, the emotional thoughts, attention, perception, convictions, reactions, expectations that would align with being in God's economy. So now you're thinking, or you should be thinking. I don't know if you're thinking at all, but I hope you're writing notes throughout this video. Now you're thinking, okay, how do I actually implement these into my subconscious mind? My subconscious mind creates reality. The way you do this is to create an emotionally charging visualization, a mental image of a scenario that would represent you being in God's economy. So it could be you getting a new client and a client that's paying you well. So what I want you to do is construct a mental image in which you and someone you love are there, and the person you love is recognizing the attainment of your desired reality. So for you, let's say you want to get another client and your clients cost 10,000 for a 6-week package. You can visualize your girlfriend saying, babe, I'm so proud of you for getting that $10,000 client, right? Whatever it may be. Just make sure it's short, because the longer your visualization, the harder it is to visualize it constantly. The harder it will be to just do it. Because the thing is, when you create these long visualizations, the funny thing is that we are perfectionists in a way. So because you have this long visualization, you think that, okay, the details have to be important. So now you start thinking about the color of your girlfriend's shorts in your visualization. Oh, what color is the ground? And I do this quite often. I always have to remind myself to make it simple. And my simplest visualizations, my simplest mental images are the ones that have the most potency. They're the ones that work the most. So I'll be thinking about random details. Oh, my girlfriend's nails are painted white in the visualization. And it's like, it doesn't matter. All you need is a visualization. A visualization that is simple enough to evoke an emotion, a positive emotion. And that visualization must be indicative of your desired reality. The more you do that, the more you sit in that state of that evoked positive emotion, the more your subconscious mind can be reprogrammed to a state where it already has what you think it has. Because your mind, your subconscious mind, doesn't know the difference between a real and imagined experience. So the more you imagine that experience. Your subconscious mind doesn't make the distinction that, oh, he's imagining this. No, your subconscious mind takes it as experience, and eventually it becomes normal, eventually becomes something that you have subconsciously. And because you can only have what you already have, once you have it subconsciously, you will have it in reality. So once you have outperformed the bad economy subconsciously, you will outperform the bad economy in reality. And that is how you outperform any economy, regardless of how good it is.